Welcome everybody, I'm the Fluffy Fox and welcome to this new channel, The Creative Fox. This is my first YouTube video and I will introduce my first and new creation in Planet Coaster 2, which is called Grünfuchs Erlebniswald, and it's a franchise park in Planet Coaster 2. And it's part of the Grünfuchs franchise. At the beginning I start with one step that I always do in franchise mode, which is deleting all the scenery. In Planet Coaster 2 there is something that is much different to the former games. That means that the scenery, deleting trees and stuff, actually gives you money. Money that you can use to build your franchise park, as money is an issue in franchise. And here I use a technique I learned from other YouTubers. There are some really great tutorials by Tagi3D and Ruble Trillions for advanced path editing. So if you want to know more tips and tricks about path editing, just go there and see these. Watch these because they are really great. With this technique you can treat paths as if they were scenery objects, so you can use the advanced movement tool on them and then you can raise them up. It's a good way to create kind of a raised curb, raised walkway, which has two good uses, because we can use it as a walkway for a car park that will follow here, and we can use it as kind of a sidewalk area. Because when people walk on this walkway, they won't walk over the curb and such don't walk on the street. I place some buses here and then recolor them to have a park entrance at the beginning, and then I start to build the entrance plaza. I fiddle around with the pathing a bit, but then I'm gonna delete this plaza anyway and start anew right now. So while I begin to build my first building, let's talk about me for a second. I've been playing these kinds of games since Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 actually. Around in my teen years I got Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 and then Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, and I sunk hours and hours into that game. For example, played every single scenario of RCT1 and RCT2. After that, when RCT3 came out, I didn't have a machine that was powerful enough to play that, but I was a student, university. 1 or 2 years later, I got a machine that was powerful enough to run this. So I played RCT3 and played Soaked and Wild and had fun with that. And in that time, I got in touch with the German Roller Coaster Tycoon community and first got into sharing stuff and all of that, which is kind of funny because I met people like Andreas Kübler and his brother. I even did some web broadcasting with them for a short time, and these guys now work in the theme park industry and even founded, I think, one of the biggest soundtrack and media producing companies there, IMAscore. And then there was a big pause because I got out of the hobby, I had some stress with studying and university and all of that, and a few years later I got into the alpha of Roller Coaster Tycoon World and it was horrible. A buggy, unplayable and bad looking mess. And then I read reviews and they were like, dude, why don't you play Planet Coaster? And I got that game and it was so much better. I played that game for a while. Then Planet Zoo came out and I played that game for a while, and now I'm here in Planet Coaster 2 and I'm having fun. I am not a great builder, I gotta say that. There are so many great builders on YouTube and I think I really admire what they do and I think it's awesome. People like Rudy Renkamel, like Masked Bandit, like practically the whole bubble around the Bro Nation community, and not to forget John T from Geekism. They are really awesome. They can build hyper realistic, they can build stylized, they can build implied realism. I'm not at all at that level. I'm, I think, a level below. The problem I had with Planet Coaster 1 was that I'm mostly too much of a perfectionist, which is a weird thing because I'm not a good builder, so there were no perfect products. And that's what happened all the time. The beginning of a park, I built an entrance, I built my first roller coaster, my first backstage area. I didn't like it and then began anew. Today I learned my lesson. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Sometimes it's okay for stuff to just be good and not perfect. Also, this is one of the reasons why I made this YouTube channel. As Jonty said it in one of his more recent videos, he said that as a person who presents YouTube videos, you have to decide this is good enough to present, otherwise there will be no videos. For my first building here, I tried to use plaster trims, but I didn't like them. They were too bulky and too flat. So I used wood. I used the Genius Viking fence as kind of a foundation, and I used another Viking fence as a trim up there. The posters are a placeholder. I hope to have custom billboards in the game soon, because I want to do some custom billboards, perhaps using AI for it, which I did in my current Planet Zoo project, which I also want to bring onto this channel. I'm 41 years old, I'm from Germany, as many of you can tell by my accent. I like theme parks, I like fairgrounds, I like flat rides, I like roller coasters, I like good theming experiences, and I have been to some, or rather many, parks in Germany. I have been to bigger parks, like I think the most names floating around in Germany are Phantasialand and Europa Park. I have also been to Hansa Park, Heide Park and Movie Park Germany. And I have been to smaller and not that well-known theme parks or safari parks, like Safari Park in Hodenhagen or Hollywood Park and Safari Park in Stukenbrock, or when I was a child in the smaller parks like Schloss Beck, Holiday Park in Hasloch. And yes, I have ridden Expedition G-Force and I liked it, but I think it's overhyped. Ooh, controversial opinion. And I have been to other smaller parks like Taunus Wunderland or Freizeitpark Lochmühle, which are family focused. Phantasialand was my home park for a long period of time because I lived near there, so I went almost every year. This sadly got a pause because I had to move away, and now it's much more seldom. For example, I didn't yet ride Fly, the great Vekoma flying coaster there, but up to Terran, which I rode about 40-50 times, I went to Phantasialand regularly. What I'm doing here is placing the entrance building, and I use the technique to have one building and then put it at angles. I use the angle snap of 11.25% so I can place stuff more methodically and have some angles to keep track of. I need some power with these buildings, so I start to build a small road to what will be my main backstage area. This will be kind of a place for offices, for workshops, for repairs and all of that. There will be more smaller backstage areas throughout the park. This park, Grünfuchs Erlebniswald, as you see me placing solar panels, because the park actually tries to provide all its power by clean renewable energy. This park, Grünfuchs Erlebniswald, is a kind of a loving tribute and my imaginary franchise that also has a wildlife park. The story of this is that there is a kind of an educator that had the idea to build a school zoo. So a zoo where people can come and learn about nature. And this is not fully imaginary. The Grünfuchs Zooschule actually exists, and it's in a wildlife park, and it's an organization that you can call if you are, for example, a teacher or a parent or something. You can call them and they do education, nature education and all of that. And calling my franchise this way is kind of a loving tribute to that. So if you're a teacher or if you're a parent and are in Germany, give them a call, They do awesome stuff there. I'm not sponsored, but it's kind of a tribute. It's kind of a not really advertisement, but I think people should know this, to know that there is an organization where kids can learn about nature while having fun and even get closer to the animals, learn about the environment in a fun and adventurous way. So, if you're an educator, a teacher, a kindergarten teacher, or just a parent responsible for children education, give them a call. They have tours, they have different experiences. In my franchise, I imagined this thing going further. So this zoo school actually got much more successful and got that much money so they could afford their own wildlife park, where they took in some animals from other wildlife parks, some animals that were from animal shelters, from rescue operations and all of that. And such there was born the Grünfuchs Wald Zoo, which is kind of a wildlife park in the style of the German Wildparks. So it's more of a very nature-based, foresty zoo or wildlife park, and less of a styled and modern zoo with exotic animals, more animals that are actually from our temperate zone, from our biome, from Germany or the other countries around Germany, and most really nature-based, really big exhibits, really sparse theming. And this is what I'm building in Planet Zoo at the moment. An inspiration for that was the Hanau Alte Fasanerie, which is one of these wildlife parks. And when that wildlife park was successful also, the Grünfuchs franchise decided, okay, let's build a theme park. And let's build the theme park fitting to our wildlife park. There is something like that. In German we have a theme park which is called Erlebnispark Tripsdrill, and there is also a wildlife park nearby. So in my imagination, the Grünfuchs franchise bought some land near their wildlife park and is building a theme park there. This theme park isn't extremely themed in the way that there is a Viking theme or a mythology theme. The theme park is more of an amusement park with light theming, and the theming should be, as the wildlife park, foresty based. This is the goal here with this build. As I'm building a sign here, because I didn't like the in-game signs, this park will be lightly themed, and the theming will be animals and forests and nature. This is the goal here. So I'm trying to work with forest, with foliage, with different flowers, with different plants. And yeah, the kind of inspiration there are some smaller parks like Freizeitpark Lochmühle, Freizeitpark Schloss Beck, Wild- und Freizeitpark Thülen. All the smaller parks that are nature themed, animal themed. Some of them even have petting zoos within their parks that have smaller attractions. And the story behind it will be that this park bought some fairground attractions or older rides from other theme parks and incorporated them. We have a similar park in German which is called Freizeitpark Geiselwind, or the Hollywood and Safari Park Stukenbrock, where they bought some of the funfair attractions and then placed them into the park, and some of them got removed, some of them got back in. So in my park I want to do something like that. It's flat rides that came from other parks or from fun fairs and that are placed there, lightly themed to nature, to forests, perhaps to animals, and then placed there into the amusement park. You see me finishing up that sign. One thing I really like is using the same font to have a drop shadow over there, And the other thing I really think is great are still the plaster pieces. They are so universally useful to build whatever you want. I think the null signs are something that is really great about Planet Coaster 2. We have been fiddling with the signs in Zoo or Planet Coaster 1 for such a long time, so the null signs to just make anything into a sign with just letters are such a great idea. After the sign is done, you will see me opening the workshop because I wanted to get some nice blueprints. One I actually end up using is the wall planter blueprint by Tolles Brötchen, which is a hilarious name, and the other one is the hanging planters by Moccasin Bill and the hanging lamps by Owens. And I'm not above using stuff from the workshop, and I don't think that it's something to be ashamed of. I'm more with Jonty there. If there's something already perfect in the workshop, you can absolutely use it, I think. And here you see something, for example, that you will see often in my videos. Selecting stuff, trying to fiddle around with what is a building and what's not, and how to use something. Which is something in Planet Coaster I really fiddle around a lot at the moment. In Planet Coaster 2 it's not a perfect game. It's a good game, it's really fun. I have over 70, I think around now it's over 100 hours in the game, and it's really fun. But some of the choices that Frontier made are really puzzling to me. One of these is the menus where I have to right click 3-4 times to get out of some menus, and I'm still unused to some of the building tweaks in the Planet games at all. Something like, when am I editing a building? When am I not editing a building? What is a building? What is outside a building? What is inside a building? Sometimes I get lost, I get puzzled around that a bit, and I thought I'd leave these things in. One thing that bothers me about so many genius creators, and it's not a criticism, it's just a phenomena that happens, is that people can't identify with them. People can't really relate. They're so good, people actually get demotivated by watching their videos because their creations are so great, their creations are so vast, massive, routine, that people playing the game actually can't really relate and get demotivated by, oh, there are these people that do so great there, and I'm just a loser. So I want to be the person which is a little bit more relatable perhaps. As I'm also in the role-playing community, pen and paper role-playing, there we know this effect as the Mercer effect. Matt Mercer from Critical Role is such a great GM that sometimes GMs get demotivated to do their own stuff because they think, I can never be as great as a GM as Matt Mercer is. But that's no wonder, he's a trained voice actor. So I want to be the person that isn't perfect, that isn't the greatest builder, the one that struggles, the one that has problems, the one that isn't used to everything, the one that doesn't know where the parts are, the one that is practicing using parts in different ways, the one that needs to look for parts, the one that actually has to think long what they're doing and all of that. Here I'm using the blueprint wall planter, and I think it's genius. And I love the wall planters. In a park that is environmentally conscious, having greens on your walls is actually quite good because they isolate your buildings from heat or from cold, and as such greenery on the walls are energy efficient, and as such the park is a park for using this. Here I edited around a bit because I didn't like the wisteria on it. I just wanted to have the ivy, and here I fiddle around with the position a bit and then use this for some of the wall panels. I have to admit I'm an incredibly slow builder. The footage you're seeing is from 10 hours of playing. I didn't want to accelerate it further because I think it's important that you can actually see what I'm doing, that you can pause and see what parts I'm using and all of that. Another point I'm trying to be as relatable as possible, but that's why this video is so long, because I don't want to go any faster and I'm really slow at building, and well, these are 10 hours of gameplay compacted into one video. I didn't want to upload the video before I got at least the entrance area done, so that left me in a bit of a pickle. So yeah, please bear with me, this video is long, but if you enjoy this kind of content, of course, feel free to subscribe and like the video. I personally can't guarantee there will be regular uploads on this channel. This is kind of an experiment. I'm still experimenting with this whole concept of video editing, building, being on YouTube, making videos and all of that. I have some experience making videos, but I think there are much more professional people to edit videos, to edit audio and all of that. I'm doing the best I can. My first YouTube video, please be a bit patient. But with patience, another point I'm trying to make, I'm always looking for tips and feedback. So if you have feedback about how I build, if you have tips and tricks what I could do better, if you have feedback about my video editing, my sound quality and all of that, please let me know. But please keep in mind, keep it constructive and keep it friendly. Comments that aren't will be read but ignored. So please keep it patient, friendly and calm. Otherwise, the comment section is of course there for giving comments of all kinds, but I reserve myself the right to delete any inflammatory, discriminatory or trolly kind of comments. This is my channel and this should be welcoming and friendly to everyone. I place these hanging planters, and with that I want to point your eye to the main difference of this park to more themed parks, or on the other hand, low budget amusement parks. These planters are a good example for what I'm going for. Of course, these planters have to be made. They had to be planted, so they're planned scenery. But much of the scenery around the park, or much of the scenery in the park, is less planned and much more natural, grown as it was. So I need to find a good balance between what is planted there, what is planned, and what is just natural randomness. I like the scenery brush that came with Planet Coaster 2 for that, because unplanned nature is something you can actually do quite well with the scenery brush. Here I'm placing planters, and these planters are again planned, and as such I need to keep that in mind. What did they put into these planters? Why did they put it there? I think going with too much planned, like plants or flowers, again would be wrong, because they are not Disney. They can't just plant a flower every day. They can't have colorful fitting flowers. But on the other hand, they plant this and they planted this. So I wanted to have at least a bit of nice foliage, like a bush and a tree in there. But they don't daily check if the flowers have the right color or something like that. So it should be planned, but not too much. I hope I can find the right balance between these two concepts. By the way, to add variation to foliage, I love the resizing, the scaling tool. It's so awesome. Here I'm trying to correct the sidewalk a bit, and I'm struggling a bit, but now it worked. And I tried to get the weird short bump in there gone, but in the end I edit and get it somehow, and it's good enough, I think. I'm looking what I built, and then I try to think about what still needs to go in there, and I thought about having two small huts there. One will be a toilet building, just to have a toilet when people are leaving the park or when people are joining here and need the restrooms, and the other will be a guest service area. You will see, and as you already saw, all the signs will be in German because it's a German park, and so the signs will reflect that. I'm trying to build a bit of a different roof, and this is one of my still remaining problems. How do I get buildings not to look blocky or just like big cubes or something? And the other problem is scale. In Planet Coaster, many things are scaled really high. So the 4-meter wall, to be honest, is a bit too tall. And if you want to know a bit more about scale, know a bit more about why the scaling in Planet Coaster is a bit weird, you can go to Masked Bandits or N7's, aka Mike Sheets channels, and the great series Planet Bro Coaster, which is from Planet Coaster 1. It is a hyper-realistic park, and they are crazy about this scaling. I'm a big fan, so if you like my videos, you will like their videos even more, because they're really, really great at doing what they do. Here I'm having a problem because I sunk the building into the ground a bit and then tried placing a toilet on the grid of the building. That's bad, because the restroom building sunk into the ground and then I had problems connecting the path with it, so I needed to change that. Here I'm fighting a constant problem I have. It's Z-fighting, because I wanted to have the roof with a bit of overhang, and as such I had some Z-fighting and need to split things from the building and then raise them up like a pixel or something, and it's really hard to raise or lower stuff. You have to really be very subtle with your mouse movements, so that's really hard for me. I already bought myself a new mouse pad to do that better, but it still needs to arrive here. And another gripe with the system is that I constantly move pieces to somewhere I don't want to move them. When you move something, you get the cool 3D gizmo, well, Rudi always calls it a gizmo, where you can move it on all 3 dimensions. At the moment, the gizmo where you can move it at 2 dimensions at once reacts kinda weirdly. If you try to move something, it always happens that you instead get the 2-dimension movement, and then the stuff goes somewhere where you never wanted it to be. That is quite annoying, because if you close it, the stuff doesn't stay selected. So if I try to move something and then deselect it, the stuff isn't selected anymore, so I can't use it anymore. Perhaps it's in the ground and I can't select it anymore. This is really, really bad sometimes. Here I'm constantly trying to fight the Z-fighting, and in the end there will be an okay looking roof, and at the moment it's still floating, but after I worked some more on the building it will be fine. Here I fight more Z-fighting and see that my roof trim, my roof cap was moved, so I correct that, and then I start building more of that building. I was constantly wondering which door to use. Here I tried to say, okay, I use the Planet Coaster door, use the double door. This will get changed in the future because I didn't like the look. I wanted to have some kind of lightly standard look for the toilet building, but in the end I will use I think it's a tropical or resort door, I'm not sure. And here I'm trying to fiddle around with the paths to have people not walk through the wall, but they will walk through the door anyway. Here you see me using the workshop, and I get the path pixel, which is also a great tool made by Tagi 3D, where you can use it to delete small pixels of the path. I work with it. In this case it doesn't work out like I want, but it's a really, really useful tool, because he made a stamp for paths, and with a pixel stamp you can delete these small pieces of path, and as such edit your paths much more precisely. But here I finally seem to get it, because I just move the curb inside here and I'm fine with that. I try to make the door a little bit bigger, and then it's a giant door and I still don't like it. And then I use the trim that I also used on my entrance building, the Viking fence, to use it as a decorative wall trim up there and then place it. And that at least makes the scale a little bit better, because it doesn't make the wall look so big and large, and decorates it with a little bit of stuff, which I really like. I tried to copy some design elements from my entrance building into the toilet building, and I think this is important. This is one park, and this park at least has to have some cohesion of theming elements. So I think it's important that this park has kind of a amateurish but still fitting brand identity and brand visualization. So the buildings should repeat some of the elements of the other buildings to have it recognizable as this is the same franchise, this is the same park, this is the same decoration style. So I want to keep at least some cohesion over there, which is why you see me copy some of the custom colors also. Something in Planet Coaster that is really annoying for me at the moment is that custom colors are not kept between play sessions. So when I start a new play session, I always need to go into a building, edit something that has my custom color, and then copy and paste the custom color, and then I have it for the other buildings. This is quite annoying. I place some windows, and I do use Masked Bandit's tip to shift the windows inside a bit, so they seem to go inside the building, but I won't build custom windows yet because we don't have glass parts, and also I'm not at that level. After that I place some more wooden wall planters. After that there will be a backstage area over there, and I thought, if there's a backstage over there, maybe they won't decorate it as much. The properties of being environment friendly of these planted walls will stay there, so planted walls will be there, and you will see that there will be also lamps, because you can see them over the kind of half-hearted privacy fence I will place there, because I think this company isn't very professional and used to hiding backstage stuff. I think I want to go with something with this mood of, yes, they try to hide the backstage stuff, but they don't hide it very well. So these things get a privacy fence, the backstage area that will be there, but the backstage area won't be completely hidden, and as such they placed a lamp there because you can see it, and when we see how the park looks from a pedestrian point of view, you will see that yes, stuff is hidden, but not very well. Remember, the one who created the theme park is an educator first, an owner of a wildlife park second, and then he decided, let's do a theme park. So he isn't a big company who got used to everything that the theme park does, everything that the theme park needs, and this is something I want to express with this. I want to get from the small origins of a theme park and then grow it organically. First, there will be some amusement park rides, perhaps some play structures and all of that. I love the Helter Skelter for it, for example. And then there will be the first small roller coaster. I will do a Zira Tivoli inspired roller coaster. And after that, when the small beginnings of the park are done, there will be some newer attractions, newer flat rides, newer roller coasters. And when the park is successful, there will be the big additions like the mega coasters or the Eurofighters or all of the different bigger roller coasters. You won't find something like Galaxy Rewind in here because this is not that park. This is no Disney park. It's not even a Phantasialand or Europa Park. It's more a lightly themed park. And this is the growth I want to have. Here, for example, I'm struggling with selecting this building because I needed to have different buildings here because I needed to fight the Z fighting on the roof. But then I need to select all of that building, and then it's a problem because I select the path, I select some other parts, which is really weird. I just wanted to copy the building to have the guest relations building, the guest service building over there, and then I struggle with the same thing I did with the toilets. I select the building, but because the building is lowered a bit, the information, the guest services are placed a little bit lower, and then I struggle again with the pathing because the pathing won't work as I wanted to. There is where I got the problem that I had before, and then I can correct it. I didn't realize I had this problem until I saw what happened there. So you see me getting the guest services building out, and then look, okay, now I can build the path like I wanted. Okay, that's fine. But what happened then? And then I tried to place it inside and not on the grid of the building. And that finally will work for me. Here you see me deleting the path. Here you see me connecting the path and seeing, oh no, it's lowered. I cannot do a path on the ground that isn't lowered there. And then you see me deleting it again. And that's really something I struggle with. I struggle with all the intricacies that can happen in these kinds of buildings, these kinds of scenarios. And yes, as you see in these buildings, I do no interior. It's just a functioning thing. I will try to do interiors later, but these buildings are just too small to fit the facility in and then do an interior. So I keep it light, keep the facility in, and yeah, you have to imagine the interior being different than it is right now, but you can't see it. Later, I find that these doors are a little bit bad for that. I should have figured out how to build wood pieces around it, but then you would see the interior. So I do an implied thing. I use black art shapes to actually simulate that there is the inside of the building behind those doors, so you don't see the wood directly behind the door anymore. I'm always going back and forth between these buildings, and then, as you see, I am still struggling at what is a building and what isn't, because I take the Viking wall out of the building, and at first I have it in the building, but I didn't want it, so I need to fill around there again and again and again. But then I try to use it as some kind of curb fence and try to box in the nature or the empty areas over there. One thing I really want, and I hope Frontier is on it, is in Planet Coaster 1, we couldn't remove the curbs. Then we got the ability to do that. In Planet Zoo, we could remove the curbs, and I was really happy with that. Here, after all that Frontier knows about us not wanting to have these curbs, they are there again. So you need to cover them up or just keep them there. I will go with a hybrid model. I will sometimes cover them up. I will sometimes just accept that they're there. But really, this is one of the decisions by Frontier that I'm really puzzled about. It happened the first two games that they got the feedback, please let us remove the curbs, and they did. That's fine. But why do we again need to give them this feedback? Don't they know by now that we want no curbs, or at least the option to remove the curbs? I think they should have known. Why? You could ask, would you want to remove the curbs? There are three reasons. One thing is, it's much easier to incorporate path with foliage and all of that when there are no curbs present. Second, it's hard to cover the curbs sometimes. As you see me struggling with these walls, they are not always opaque, if I could say so, opaque or big enough to cover every curb. And the third reason is if you want to do something like a ground cover, you will have to raise it so much to cover the curbs that your guests' feet just sink into the ground so much. Here I'm using one of the in-game signs to build the guest service sign. One thing I always think about is why don't we have more fonts in the game for signs or custom signs or no signs? I mean, is that a licensing issue or something? Because we have so few fonts and most of them look alike. And then I look for the font I use, and these are the guest service signs. I look around a bit if I'm okay with everything here, which is something I quite often do because I'm thinking about what to do, what can I do here. I'm not that great with planning, but okay, I think, okay, what would a backstage area need? So if there's something broken on the roof, or if the roof needs to be cleaned or something, they would need a ladder, and then I think about doing a backstage area behind these buildings. I found this cool fence on the workshop. I can't remember who it was from, and I think this is perfect. It's a wooden fence that is not too high, but it's still high enough to make it believable that the park actually tried to hide the backstage area. There is a small bin because, well, people leave stuff behind when they go to the restrooms. And then I try to do some implied realism here with a small path around the building where the backstage people can walk around the building, empty the bins, and perhaps repair some stuff like planters or something, or just keep them here until a mechanic can arrive to take these planters and bring them to the big backstage area and workshop area behind the park, or the big one connected to the road where it's the main maintenance area. I go ahead and build the fence until it's in front of the building. This was a bit inspired by the great building tutorial by Mask the Bandit, which I watched, to have this implied small backstage area. I will terraform this, and then I start thinking about one thing. If they have a bin there, they need to be able to roll it out. And the path I did would be much too narrow to roll that out. So they need a small gate there to open and roll the bin out. So I'm trying to create a gate here. I'm fiddling around with some of the parts. In the end, I will use a lamppost upside down or something like that. Not a lamppost, a post. And then I try to use a piece of wood. I think it's some resort wood that I use to just put a frame around the wood and then create this door. I tried with plaster, it doesn't work, and then I'm look for a part that looks okay. This is of course in the beginning quite blue. I don't keep it that way. I keep the color in nice brown because I don't want too many non-natural colors here. I want to keep with browns and greens and all of it. You did see all the time the cool 2-color plaster pieces, which I also use quite a bit because I think in the game there's supposed to be water, like waves on and stuff, but I really like them because I think when I use them with the green and the bright tan color I'm using, they look like a green hilly zone with a nice bright sunlight behind them. So I will use them quite often in this build, as you saw them in the entrance building. I try to keep these colors light, nice tan, or a dark brown, or a light or a dark green, like the default color hunter green in the game, for example. I like these colors, and I will work with these colors a lot. There will be no over stylized colors. There will be no extremely bright planters or something. You will see me soon using a rhododendron bush, and I don't actually know if I'm gonna keep them. I tried at first because I wanted to have a splash of color, but I'm still thinking to not use them or to get them out. Here I'm going on building the fence, and then I'm trying to imply that people can actually walk here. I will copy the gate over there, which is quite a pickle, and this is something I really don't understand. Again, Frontier did have the power to make us mirror things. This gate will be a big problem for me because I will be unable to mirror it, and then I need to, especially for the other building, like completely fill around and completely build it practically new to have the gate in the other direction. With coasters, they can do that. And I know there's a trick there. You can use these movable bases where you can mirror that stuff on the base and then just keep the base in the ground or hidden or something like that. Yeah, that's possible. But still, why can't we just mirror something? This will be a big problem later because I will build an interior in my second episode, and there it's a problem because I can't place a door on one side of the wall and the same door on the other side of the wall without the handle being on the other side. So this just does not work. Here I will have some spare planters, some of which I remove because I planned to use these planters in the entrance area and didn't. So I removed them because I thought, why would they have these planters there if they are not used in the entrance area? And yeah, I tried to do something for the backstage there. And then here's another problem. These small decisions Frontier made are really puzzling and weird. They actually detract from the enjoyment of the game, and that's so sad. Planet Coaster at the moment is sitting at a mixed reception on Steam, but it's a great game. But small decisions like we see here, why can't benches be placed aside from the path? I don't get it. They don't get used, that's fine. But why? That's something I'm really puzzled about. And these weird decisions are decisions why people like Delay Designer don't play this game at the moment. And for example, there is no Koali Beach in planning at the moment. Here I use some kind of easy version of the trick to not have people walk through scenery. I just remove the path under the scenery and fiddle around a bit until it works. And this is something that I actually, again, knew about because of the tutorials from the great YouTubers Rubitrillions and Tagi3D. You can remove the path under your planters, under your scenery, and then have the guests not walk through it. And with using the path like a stamp, you can actually make quite controlled cutouts from the path that are really working quite well. I did a version of this park, well, it was kind of, yeah, let's get used to the controls a bit and let's try to play. And there I used this tip a lot. And then the update came and my queues were all too short and the people started queuing on the paths and congested the path extremely. So I couldn't really use this park anymore. But the update is good, don't get me wrong. I like the update, the people now willing to queue longer. I mean, that was quite hilarious. The queue time was around 6 minutes or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and people are like, I'm not queuing that long to use, or I'm not queuing that long to ride on something something. That's hilarious. If you go to Phantasialand on a weekend, waiting time from 60 to 90 minutes are typical. So 3 minutes, I'm not waiting that long, is so unrealistic, and it took so much away from the creative side of the game, because being creative, creating queues to entertain guests, to keep guests entertained, to have guests not complain about the queues is a really big thing about creating theme parks. How do I engage people in the queue? If I remember the queue for the recently opened Voltron Nevera in Europa Park, which is themed extremely well. They have this great animatronic there. They have this water tunnels where water is streaming around you on a wall and you can walk through these water streams. They have a Tesla coil actually playing the theme of the ride. This is theming that they put in there to have people not grumbling around because they wait such a long time. Disney, of course, perfected this formula. They keep guests entertained throughout the whole queue. This is such a giant park of design work in the theme park, so to have that be completely superfluous and guests not using the queues was quite a misstep in my eyes. So the update was really great. It was really good, but it broke my first park. It wasn't salvageable, but I know it was necessary. It was quite funny because in my end day reports there were 0 rides per adult and 0 rides per kid, because most of the people didn't ride any rides because they didn't want to wait that long to ride any ride. Concerning salvageable, here is a grave mistake I made at the end of this build. I forgot to record my last play session, so now it just ends. Whoopsie daisy. Well, I bugged up there. Well, it's my first YouTube video at all. So let me show you what I did. Here you walk by the restroom house and see how well the backstage is hidden. I made it a bit more beautiful and made some planters here, got some more plants, some more rhododendron bushes. You see the people streaming into my park, even though there's nothing behind the entrance. You see my redesigned ticket booths and the entrance for day guests or season passes. It's already pretty crowded in here, so let's try to scoot by over there. And then you can walk over to the guest service building. Here you see the whole overview, the backstage of the restroom building, then the overview of the whole entrance area, and after that I will scoot over to show you a bit of the backstage for the guest service building, and then that's it for today. I hope you will have a very great day, evening, morning, whenever you watch this video, and I will see you soon. If you like this, of course subscribe, like the video, comment, and this is the Creative Fox. I hope you stay creative and fluffy, and bye bye.